Hello everyone, you're welcome again to my channel, Believers Class TV. Let us go straight to the book of Luke 15, and I will start reading from verse 11. It says, Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his field to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Glory be to God. My dear brothers and my sisters, our God is a compassionate God. If you look at verse 1 of chapter 15, he said, then drew near unto him all the publicans and sinners for to hear him. And the Pharisees and the scribes murmured, saying, This man receiveth sinners and eateth with them. That's why I said our God is a loving God. He came so that the sinners will turn to him. They will turn from darkness to righteousness. And even when the scribes and the Pharisees, they murmured, why is he receiving sinners? Why is he eating with sinners? And Jesus gave them a parable. He said, how many of you will have 100 sheep and you lose one of that sheep? Won't you leave the 99 and go after that one that was lost? And after you have found it, you will now rejoice and tell your friends that you have found your lost sheep. That was what Jesus asked them. Then he now went ahead to verse 11 to give us the parable of the lost son. The lost son. A man that had 2 sons. And all of a sudden, one just woke up one morning and said, Father, give me all my inheritance. And the father did not hesitate. He gave him his own portion. And he went to a far country. After he has squandered all the money, he became a laborer. Somebody that was living well became a laborer to someone in that place that he found himself. He began to take care of swines. And all of a sudden, he came to his senses and said, how many servants in my father's house have enough to eat? And I'm here. I do not have anything to eat. I'm here. Look at the kind of life I am living. And he did something that I want us to see this morning. If you look at verse 17, I will read it again. He said, and when he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father's house have enough and to spare? and I perish with hunger. You see, he realized himself. He acknowledged that he has done something wrong. And what did he do? In verse 18, he said, I will arise and go to my father. I will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee. One thing is for us to know that this thing we have done or this thing we are doing is wrong. If we acknowledge the fact that we have sinned against God, the next thing we need to do is to go and ask for mercy. We don't just acknowledge that we have done something wrong and sit down and fold our hands and do nothing about it. The son acknowledged that he has erred, he has done something wrong, and he said, I will arise. He took a decision. He took a decision to turn around and go back to the Father and ask for mercy. And he did not stop at taking that decision. He acted upon that decision that he has taken. In verse 20, he said, and he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. Wow. Wow. What a loving father. What a compassionate father he is. That is how God is to us. He took a decision. He acted on it. He acted on it. A lot of us today, we take decisions and we never do anything about it. We never do anything about it. We keep taking decisions every now and then. We keep saying, Lord, I am not going back to this again. I am turning a new leaf. But we keep turning around in one circle because we did not act on that decision we have taken, or the decisions we took. So we'll remain in the same place, no changes. But this lost son, the lost son, he went back and apologized to his father. And even before the father saw him and had compassion on him, and he fell on his neck and kissed him. And all that was taken from him was given back to him. And the son said in verse 21, he said, and the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and I am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servant, bring forth the best robe and put it on him. Bring the best robe and put it on him. My dear brothers and sisters, there are a lot of us today that the kind of life we are living, we are tired of it. We don't find joy in going against God. We don't find joy in doing the things that God is angry about every day. But if we can take the steps that the lost son took, I believe there will be changes in our life. Because the God that we serve is a compassionate God. If we can acknowledge if we can acknowledge that we have sinned against God, if we can come to that point of acknowledging that we have sinned, and we take a decision to turn around, we take a decision to make a change in our life. Let's not just stop at taking that decision. Let us act. Let us act on that decision. Let us act. It is in acting that we will be forgiven. Just like the lost son, he was forgiven by his father. Everything was restored. That was the parable that Jesus was telling them. That was the parable that Jesus was telling them. In verse 4, he said, what man having 100 sheep, he loses one, he will abandon the 99 and go after that one that was missing until he finds it. So it doesn't matter what we have done. It doesn't matter the kind of life that we have lived. If only we can acknowledge that we have sinned against God. If only we can take a decision to turn around. If only we can act upon that decision that we have taken, then we'll fully be restored by the Lord. Because he said, heaven rejoices over one sinner that repents. Heaven rejoices over one sinner that repents. I want to encourage us this morning. There are a lot of us out there struggling with one thing or the other. We tell God every day, I don't want this kind of life. Help me, Lord. I want to turn around. I want to serve you more. I want to be an obedient child to you. Let us take these steps. These 3 steps will help us. These 3 steps, just like the lost son took, will reconcile us back to our Father. It will reconcile us back to our Father. I pray today that as many of us that are still in that position of, I want to change, I want to turn around, I want to turn a new leaf, but we do not know how. Let us study this parable. Let us follow these steps that the lost son, he followed it and he got his restoration back. He was restored back. God is waiting on us today. Jesus is waiting on us today to take that decision, to act on that decision. And I pray that God will give us the grace to acknowledge our sin, to take a decision to turn around, and to act